I'm Jeffrey Vascoe, enterprise architect, currently working with Campbell's, and certain expectations were made. I feel much more comfortable now.
I feel more comfortable already.
Perfect.
I told him it'd be cozy, took it to a different level. I'm Luke Norris. I'm a co-founder and CEO over at Kamiwaza. We have great partnerships with Supermicro, NVIDIA, and many of the other technologies. I think Blue Ally's here. I'm honestly just want to say this. I'm very excited for this. I tried to get together with Jeff about 3 months ago. The star couldn't be aligned, and we were able to make this happen. So I'm excited to share this with you guys. Their journey is amazing. I really want you guys to hear this 156-year-old company's journey into AI, how they're transforming, and I'm just happy to be here. Jeff, do you mind just, you're the enterprise architect, but
Yep.
give me a little history of your background.
Sure, just a little bit. Spent the first dozen years of my career doing large system chief architect work for software systems, mainly like billing systems, scheduling systems, that type of thing. Made a pivot into cloud, and in 2020 picked up strong on the AI journey, seeing it as a transformational tool. Started with Campbell's a little bit over 2 years ago, and Campbell's board, senior management, decided that they wanted to pursue a very significant modernization of their technology stack. Wanted to be able to use best-of-breed products, plug-and-play SaaS solutions, be able to do advanced data analytics and that type of thing. And so I was fortunate enough to join them at the beginning of that journey. We deployed an integration hub built on Azure technologies. It runs 100% in the cloud, and chose to implement AI in an asynchronous format. So we have the Kamiwaza stack, and decided to deploy that so that it would be triggered by messages as part of the integration hub, and therefore be only reachable through API.
I guess the first thing that sort of comes to mind is, what were the criteria for a company like Campbell's to even sort of dip their toe into adopting generative AI? Because it can be very scary.
Absolutely.
For many reasons.
Absolutely. So, one of the challenges we have, and it's not always, our audience doesn't always immediately lock into where we are, right? But we make soup. And when somebody buys a can of soup for $1.19, we don't make $2 worth of profit. So we have to run very thin margins. We're a highly competitive business. Our products are substitutable. That said, Campbell's is a phenomenal organization. As Luke mentioned, we've been around 156 years. Some of the Campbell's brands are definitely woven into the fabric of the American culture. Many people are brand loyal, but most people are brand open. And Campbell's has engaged in a process of developing different brands, improving processes, while maintaining a truly amazing culture. So when we went down this journey of modernizing, AI can be intimidating for any organization, right? You could take a organization that, is a very, very large organization, steeped in technology, and very educated, capable, professional people have very real and very valid concerns about how you implement AI, right? You've got a cost issue, right? You can't engage in runaway cost. You can't run massive AI servers 24 hours a day that are, 1% utilized. You have a support issue on the data scientists that are necessary to operate it and necessary to work with it. You have all kinds of security issues. Not that AI is not secure, but that AI has to be vetted through the security process, just like any tool or any software or any type of thing. And so part of what we faced at Campbell's was, the very real constraint of resources, the very real constraint of intellectual resources, right? Campbell's hires very capable people. Campbell's hires hard workers who are educated, intelligent, kind, compassionate, good communicators. Campbell's brings in consultants. But Campbell's doesn't have, a huge budget to say, oh yeah, these technology people, they're just like fantastic. Bring them on in, have 8 of them, let's do it. It just doesn't work that way. It doesn't fit our model. So we have to be very cost conscious. when we first kind of floated the plan of bringing in AI into Campbell's, it was November of 23. And at that point in time, there was all kinds of news about people using ChatGPT and breaking the guardrails and have ChatGPT, spit out a recipe for this or a process for that or messages about these types of things. And, a lot of times our news can be a little bit fear-based. And so some of those things, gain traction. So one of our challenges at Campbell's was to really go through a process of sharing knowledge, of taking people along the journey, right? We have stakeholders, we have a C-suite, we have vice presidents, we have supply chain, we have marketing, we have sales teams, we have security teams, networks, we have infrastructure, all the regular teams that everybody has. And different people have different perspectives. And so one of our key challenges was to try to create a common foundation of knowledge across Campbell's about what does AI mean, right? And we started with a big picture. AI is a category, like aviation is a category. If you manufacture a plane, you're part of aviation. If you buy a ticket on United, you're part of aviation. So saying AI, it's a little bit of an orientation, but it definitely doesn't get you to a product. So we kind of chose a stratification, an education point where we said, look, we're looking to bring in an AI stack. And what we want to do is we want to have machine learning. Machine learning will let us analyze tons of data that we have that no one's looking at. Maybe it'll be interesting. But machine learning will also let us analyze data that we have and that we're looking at. That is, machine learning can analyze things in flow a lot faster than humans can do it. So we say, okay, it's machine learning. People are like, all right, well, I understand that. That's not a security risk. That's not a problem. That doesn't seem like it's going to chew up tons of resources. We can turn that on or off. If it has value, we pursue it. If it doesn't have value, we won't. And we said the next thing that goes on top of that is non-generative AI. And they're like, what? We're like, well, you've heard of generative AI. Generative AI makes all the news. It's the hallucinations. It's the false facts. It's where the LLM, in conjunction with the AI stack, makes things up. Now, we hear about the outliers of what it makes up, right? Because we can go to ChatGPT and we can say, hey, I'm going to be in Tokyo for 3 days. I'm taking my 14-year-old son. This is his interest. These are my interests. Could you come up with me an agenda? For us to do different things.
I believe his 14-year-old son's in Tokyo right now, by the way.
Can you come up with an agenda? And it's going to generate an agenda. So the fact that AI generates something is not inherently scary or bad, but a corporation, its first job is to keep going what it's already built. So to take the leap intellectually and say, well, let's just put in generative AI and let AI tell us how to run this company. Well, no, that's not a starting point. So we educated on the process of non-generative AI, and we focused specifically on predictive AI. And in predictive AI, we take the machine learning, which finds patterns. By the way, it's probably the thing that AI does best is find patterns. And it finds patterns, and by finding patterns, it finds outliers. And when you lay across a non-generative AI layer, predictive AI, it starts saying, hey, maybe these data points relate. Maybe these data points, which all seem to conform one with the other and don't have any outliers, are not optimum. So it starts giving you a place where you can look. It starts giving you a place where you can say, let me look into that, predictive AI. So as we laid out machine learning, predictive AI, and generative AI, it really helped our audience start understanding. One of the things we did as an EA team is we wrote guardrails. One of our guardrails is that the data has to stay where it is. Many of us have been involved in the industry for a while, and this idea of a data warehouse came along in the late 90s. We're going to put all of our data in a big place, and then we're going to analyze it. And the difficulty with that is keeping your data in sync. A second difficulty with that is the expense. A third difficulty with that is the security. So that leads me to my next guardrail, which is that at the point in time where we have our AI stack generate a result, that stack has to respect the security permissions that are in place at that moment. By doing that, we can tie it back to the Active Directory. We can promote employees and change their roles, and now, boom, everything's taken care of. We can establish a service account that has specific capabilities to reach one system, but not another system. So now, all of a sudden, we're using the data where it sits, and we're respecting the permissions at the time when we're doing the notebook development, when we're building the prompts, but most important to the enterprise, at the moment we want the results, we're respecting the permissions. So now our security team started looking at this going, okay, well, next guardrail, no open prompts. Why? People are concerned about it. Why do you need it? Like, yeah, we can all come up with value, we can all go to ChatGPT, but if you're an enterprise, why do you need it? And so what we did is we created a guardrail that says no open prompts. So we licensed the Kamiwaza stack, we put it into our integration hub, and the way that we kick off a process with Kamiwaza is by sending a message. That message comes in via API, that message has an expected schema, the data in that message is validated before it kicks off a process, and then when that process kicks off, the AI stack, which is in the middle of our integration hub, has the capability to reach the right data, provided it has the permissions to do so. So now all of a sudden we've helped the organization understand we're not going to have people doing ChatGPT to exfiltrate data. We're not going to have people using an open prompt to look up the CEO's salary. We're not going to have people in whatever department using an open prompt and accidentally discovering, future plans that we're not ready to disclose. And because we take great care in classifying our data and in securing our data, we don't have PII data floating around. Now, in the situation where we need to have AI process PII data, we handle that when we create the notebooks. We mask it, or we create data that's fake data in order to handle the processing, or we pick up part of the data, we do the processing, and then we use a hash to go and get the correct PII data where we deliver it without it ever being exposed.
That's awesome. So with the time we have left here, I think these people want to hear some use cases. And there's a couple of them that I just particularly love. Can you talk about my favorite brand, Snyder's, and the use case around that?
Sure. So at Campbell's, what we've done is that, again, as a consumer packaged good company, we have a chief transformation officer. And our chief digital and technology officer reports to that chief transformation officer. And the only way we do anything in the IT world is to be able to show a return on investment. So we have to lay out, the business has to lay out, this is our current process and these are the resources we're consuming. And this is the process that we want to have on the other side. And that process has 4 criteria. 1, you have to have an ROI, and at this point, our ROI threshold is 400%. 2, and we have a backlog of projects that are 400 plus. The second requirement that you have is that it has to improve the quality of your result. So it's not enough to just save money. What you get on the other side has to be better than what you had before. The third requirement is that it has to improve the work life of the people who are impacted. So their daily routine of how they check things and how they do stuff has to get better. And the fourth requirement is that we have to be able to go from here are your requirements to everything in prod in less than 12 weeks. And currently we're running 8 weeks is our average. 2 2-week sprints for development, 1 2-week sprint to go to QA and prod, and 1 2-week sprint as spare. And on the 12-week, which is 6 sprints, it's 1 spare. So it's 5 weeks with a spare. So when we lay out our schedules, we're doing very rapid turnarounds of our projects. Now, Luke was mentioning Snyder's, Inc. Our biggest retailer is Walmart.
The pretzels are literally crack. I mean, the honey mustard, just let me tell you.
No, Campbell's makes fabulous products across the board. So from a major trade partner, Walmart, we receive a file each day. And that file is a gzipped file of many CSVs. It averages 433,000 rows of data, with each row having 108 columns. We weren't doing much with this file prior to putting in Kamiwaza, because it's enormous. So we said, you know what we can do? We can write a routine. We can have this file land at our external storage, where you can use a function to move it inside. We can then have that function trigger a message on a queue, and then have another function then trigger Kamiwaza to say, hey, this is where the file starts, this is where it needs to be, and this is the processing routine you're going to use, go. So it's all asynchronous. We can balance the workload. The file comes in, we open it up, we say, great, let's start doing this. Well, the first thing we found was Snyder's, Inc. They were sending their CSVs in comma delimited form. So when you put the name of our company of Snyder's, Inc., that row would have 109 columns instead of 108 columns. So in the past, we'd say, well, that's technical debt. Let's write deterministic code. Let's fix this. We'll scrub the data. But in this world, we say to Kamiwaza, hey, when you have an extra column, figure it out. When you have data that's a problem, figure it out. And if you, at the end of your figuring out, believe you have a 95% confidence or higher, make the change and note that on the row that you changed it. Show us the prior value, show us the new value in case anybody ever cares, and make the change. If you're less than 95% confident, grab these rows, go ahead and ingest the rest of the rows into our Databricks environment, grab these rows, put them off to the side, throw them into a portal, which, by the way, we generate with Kamiwaza using React.js on the front end and Fast API on the back end. Throw it in the portal, notify a user, they click on the link, they fire up the portal, they can fix the rows. We call that little subroutine, which is a different notebook, we call that Datamedic. And we took some time to do some prompt engineering to scrub the data. 1% errors means 4,300 rows of errors per day. No human could correct that. We're running slightly higher than 1%. So we get 433,000 rows of data from Walmart every day, and the highest we've ever seen was 71,000 rows of errors. And the errors are very simple, right? Here's 300 rows of data, 55 columns have cells that match perfectly across these 300 rows, but one cell is null. And all the cells above it are 0, and all the cells below it are 0. Now, I could pretty much hand that to an entry-level human and say, fix this, and they not have to do anything, and they'd figure out a 0 goes in that spot. Well, so can AI. So we're able to take these 433,000 rows of data, fix 100% of the things. The lowest confidence we've ever seen given by the AI stack is 99%. Fix everything and get it ingested into Databricks in 4 minutes and 18 seconds every day.
That's specific. If I can, one other quick use case, and actually it's more about why. The rebate system, but what I think this crowd would actually be interested in is why we have a GUI on it.
Sure.
Why is there that step? Because the AI could run headless. It can just run in the background. But
absolutely,
there was a reason that you wanted a GUI on it.
Absolutely. So, we start with users. So try to make this brief, which is difficult for me. But Campbell's has over 14,000 active retailers. And the first 5 of them make up 90% of our sales. So we have 14,000 plus vendors who make up less than 10% of our sales. One of our bigger ones is a 7 convenience store chain on the Vermont-New Hampshire border. Another one of our bigger ones is a 200 grocery store chain in Tennessee. But most of them are single point operations. You take a nice trip to the mountains, instead of paying $3 for gas, you pay $6 for gas. because you're up in the mountains and there's this store and it's a convenience store. It doesn't have a brand. It may just say Chuck's. But you go in and there's Campbell's products. And there's Campbell's products because these people order Campbell's products. Now, our marketing team does promotions. And our marketing team says, if you buy these cluster of products in this time period and you reach these thresholds, you can get a rebate. If you're an EDI customer like Walmart, you just send us a credit memo, right? You calculate it, you send us a credit memo, we apply it to your account. But if you're one of these other 14,000 firms, many of which are too small to participate in these rebate programs, you email us a PDF. And on that PDF, which you have scanned using your latest technology of 240 to 300 DPI, you circle the items that match your rebate, and you are kind enough to write out in your handwriting all the line item totals and draw a line and tell us how much we owe you. And for each one of these, we were spending about 25 and a half hours of time to process. So we had a event last fall in November, kind of a hacking event for AI. And this group came and said, hey, we have this major labor-intense process. Could AI help us? We said, oh my gosh, can we? We can go into the emails. We can pull the PDFs. We can use a vision recognition model to take this completely unstructured data, turn it into structured data, and not only OCR it, but relate it, put it in context. So our dev team said, okay, well, we need to create the process is to create a CSV, because what users were doing is opening the PDF and then manually typing this data into a CSV, so that then that could be saved for somebody else in accounting to open it up and figure out what the credit needed to be. So they had a very visual process. So we said, okay, well, do you have like a CSV that we would use? And they're like, no, we just generate a custom CSV for every invoice. Like not even every customer, just every time we do an invoice, we just open a CSV and copy paste, So we used the AI stack to derive the master data model, to derive the canonical model, and then we use that, we take the structured data coming out of the visual recognition model, we put it into a CSV file, we embed the PDF in the CSV file, and we save it back where the users can see it. So now the users can see, oh, you found this, you thought it was this is what you came up with, and here's my match, here's my cross match. Great, it built confidence in the process. Our next step was then to take that result set and to create the accounting entries and put it into a portal so the accountants could just say, click, 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 to post the credits. And they could, of course, review that. Now, with each one of those credits, we're kind enough to give them a confidence interval as to how sure we are that this credit is correct. So we believe it'll be a matter of very small amount of time to have it completely run headless. But in the meantime, we used the Kamiwaza stack to generate the portals, which run in containers, which only run when a user goes to that address. So they go to the address, spins up the container, they do their work, and they get out.
Yeah, I just thought that was brilliant. To get people on board, we built a GUI, we built them a confidence interval, they start to get using it, then they can start to let the process just run. I know we're out of time, but I just wanted to throw one more quick one to you. With all of this change of data in real time, and with AI, semantically and inferring about that data, what are your thoughts on the legacy books of records, the legacy systems that enterprises would put all their data in and hope it would enrich it? What do you think is going to happen with those over the next 3 to 5 years?
3 to 5 years is tough to figure out, right? So years ago, I was working at Shell and was part of the finance department, and we had done a big project and that type of thing, and so just kind of tangentially picked up on the fact that Shell probably every day gets audited, right? And so what Shell does is they comply with the law, and the law says you got to have a debit, a credit, an amount, and a date. So when auditors come and they want the Shell books, they say, here you go, and it's just a ledger. And the auditor says, well, what does this apply to? And they say, I don't know. And they say, well, which division is this related to? They say, I don't know. But they're answering the law. They're complying with the law. So seeing that a very, very large $200 billion a year firm actually stores all of its records in just a ledger format, I think that we're going to asymptotically approach that type of environment, where we have ledgers that are understanding our distribution, like a blockchain, right? You start with your Campbell's example. You start with the order for tomatoes, right? We buy output from tomatoes. We buy from farms. Whatever you can make us, we'll buy from you. So we start with a contract that says we'll buy your output. The next step in the blockchain is what did they produce? The next step in the blockchain is how much of what they produced are we actually putting into the product, like waste. You don't have a lot of shrinkage, I think, with tomatoes, but waste, that type of thing. And then eventually you get to the point that you say, these are my ingredients going in, these are the recipes I'm manufacturing, therefore this is what could come out. All of that can be blockchained. All of that can be processed through ledgers and tracked through ledgers. And so I think that we're going to continue to approach that type of environment where the ERP systems that display all this data, that display the information, that call upon humans to make decisions, will initially start to morph into a presentation of the data with suggestion for decisions, which builds confidence. And as we build that confidence, it builds trust.
Awesome. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the story as much as I have. I know we're going to be around for the happy hours, so approach us. But thank you guys for your time, and thank you for this.
Pleasure. Thank you.